Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of the Setter Tales podcast. Wade and Thomas here, and we've been gone for a couple weeks.
More than
I
a
hope
couple.
I hope you
I hope
noticed
they
that
know
we have
that.
been. There's some things that have been going on. We had Thanksgiving in there, and then we've both been on the hunting trail here in the last couple weeks doing some guiding, and you did a guided hunt that we'll talk about. But before we get into that, we got a little housekeeping to do, and we want everyone to remember that the episode of Setter Tales is being brought to you by Kinetic Performance Dog Food. We built it for our dogs, but you'll love it for yours. And so check them out at their website and also in their Facebook page to see what they've got going on, feeding some of America's finest law enforcement and military dogs, and
Hmm.
some of America's best upland hunting dogs, I might add. So, but we're trying to going to update you tonight. We don't have an official guest, but we wanted to update everybody on what we're doing and what we have been doing. And I guess as a place to start, we had Sergeant Perkins on a few weeks ago with the Heroes Hunting Foundation, and we talked that night about them sending some guys to do a hunt with you,
Hmm.
and I understand that took place. Why don't you kind of update us on what that was all about and how that went?
Yeah, you know, the relationship with these guys started over 2 years ago. I met a guy down at the Iowa State Pheasants Forever convention. So that convention is pretty much for all the chapters to kind of come and do a banquet and all that stuff. So I met Mike, and he had actually got Hall of Fame for the state of Iowa for his property, and he actually sat with me at lunch, never even told us why he was there, and all of a sudden they're talking this, he stands up, and he come back. I said, well, you didn't say a word. And he goes, I just do it to help people, and so Mike has a property down in southwest Iowa. um, Mike does a little hunting, but nothing on his property. He's gone out and hunted in different states, and well, anyway, he was telling me about, he's a Vietnam vet, has gone through a lot of trials and tribulations for himself. Openly admits all the things that had happened to him, and um, drinking and drugs and all the things that I think a lot of veterans that came home from Vietnam went through, because that was such a tough situation. And anyway, he reaches out and helps a lot of veterans in Omaha, and I think he does shoot up to Iowa City if he needs to. A lot of the uh, the veteran homes, especially the vet hospitals, and he helps guys with their paperwork, and he does a little counseling with them, and just a real positive guy. And I said, if you ever want to do a pheasant hunt, give me a shout. And we uh we just became really good friends over the last 2 years, and Mike and I talk about once a week. And I said, let's get this hunt going. And then he'd got me in touch with Patrick, and so Patrick and I organized this hunt, and we are going to have 7 veterans. And I got an Airbnb in my hometown, and they're all going to stay there. We were all going to have steaks. It was just going to be a fun time. Well, ended up we only had 3 veterans come. Couple had some health issues come up, and one guy told his wife he was going to go to a wedding, and one other guy, he just kind of said he didn't want to come. He just had something come up, and so there was just 3 veterans, and man, did we have a blast. We went, had some great landowners offer us their land to hunt, and by 10 o'clock, we had 2 guys already limited out in the morning. We didn't get started hunting until like 8:30, quarter to 9. The wind was blowing about 35, 40 mile an hour sustained all day.
It always is up at your place.
It is.
I
I,
don't
I
understand that.
had that joke about the different states, but my mom told me that those words were
Yeah,
inappropriate, so I won't say
you'll have
that
to look
anymore.
at it. You'll have to look at a previous episode if you really want to know
Yeah,
what that
I
was.
think it was our first
I think
episode
it was.
actually.
Yeah, I think it
So I was
was.
testing the rated stuff right away.
If it
But
makes you feel better, it was cousin Ryan's favorite part.
yeah, so somebody from Missouri liked my jokes. So, but no, they came up, and the sun was shining. It was cold. It's like 19 degrees, but these guys showed up. They're ready to roll. And
So where were they from? The ones that actually
we
arrived?
had uh, 2 from the Des Moines area, and one is actually what they call like a helper with the HHF. He's a veteran himself, but he runs around and helps with the hunts. Patrick was unfortunately couldn't make it, so he was down in Arkansas. So he was living vicariously through us. We were sending him pictures and kind of picking at him, and I'm sure I think he's probably cussing us a little bit, but we hunted a beautiful property of friends of mine, and I think it's like 160 acres of CRP and just
Oh,
beautiful.
my.
And
Wow.
we went out, the sun was shining, the wind was blowing, but we're like, oh, whatever, we're gonna hunt anyway. And we probably walked 50 yards, and CJ just goes on this smoking point. I mean, her elbows are on the ground, tail straight in the air. She just run, that wind caught it, and that bird was right at the end of her nose. So I got up, and the guy just dumped it. I go, hey, you got to let him get out a little more. He goes, oh, first time, first bird jitters. We're good now. And then I don't know why, I walked another 30, 40 yards, and boom, she's on point again. I thought, this is going to be fun. So he dropped another one. I said, all right, you go over there.
Yeah.
Why? I said, because
Okay.
you're going to be limited out before we even get started. So we hunted this. We made a big lap around this property, and it was so dry and then it started snowing. We had a mini squall come in, I think they call that, and you couldn't see 100 foot ahead of you.
Make for a good pheasant hunt.
So birds were had their track shoes on. We'd be on point, and then Adam had brought a couple of his dogs up, and we had dogs on point, and we were trying to get to them, and you couldn't see the guy 50 yards away from you because of the snow, and you
Really?
couldn't keep your
Wow.
eyes open, and we had birds flying everywhere. So finally the snow quit, and we come around, and I said, okay, I think our best plan is hit the backside. It's kind of a hilly area, which in our area, it's not very hilly. So this was a pretty rough terrain area, I would say, for where I live. And so let's just hunt the backsides of the hills where the wind's not at. So we started getting some more shots. I think we ended up, 2 guys got their limits. So we had one guy that he'd been only pheasant hunting twice in his life, never behind a pointing dog or anything like that. So, and he had brought his grandpa's 20 gauge. It was a single shot, had a hammer and everything. So he was getting the hammer back and pulling up, and just the birds just never were timed easy for him. So
that's a little tough.
So, and I don't think he fired a shot that first field. And I could see he's like, dang, this sucks. And I said, we got plenty of shells, fire away. And I said, if you need a different gun, I got another gun. Oh, I got another one, but I want to kill one with my grandpa's gun. Yeah. So we went up to my hometown, back towards where they're staying, and we're gonna hunt this property. And I saw a rooster out in the field, and I didn't say anything to anybody. And Mike had ridden in with me, and they were in a different truck. And I said, we're gonna go get that bird. He said, it's going to go right down in the ditch. It's going to be a perfect, Ryan, you get a dog out. We're just going to walk that ditch, and that bird's going to get up, and he's going to kill it. Are you sure? He says, those things been running all day. He said, that bird was already burying itself in the fresh snow. So I said, just grab your gun, grab a shell, let's go. So we walked just 100 yards down the road, and that bird wasn't in the field anymore. And he's in the ditch. So I said, as soon as he shoots, dump a dog. So the rooster got up perfect right into the wind, and he just dumped it. Broke both wings, but he went running. So I gave Mike the cue, and he dumped CJ, and she come flying down the road and saw the bird running, went and picked it up. So we had a huge party there. So we were ready to go. So I grabbed 2 fresh dogs out of the truck. I had all 4 that day, so I grabbed my little puppy, and Boomer got to go on that hunt. So I had Gunner and her, and then so we walked the area, and they pointed, and a couple of hens got up, and we walked around and come up over this hill, went through the creek. It was kind of a crappy terrain, and Boomer's working way downwind. I knew he was working a bird really hard, and the other 2 guys weren't carrying a gun, so I carried mine just as backup. And next thing you know, this little 7-month-old puppy's just locked up tight. I thought, that dog's got a bird. She's not graceful yet, but that's as graceful as I've seen it. So wind's blowing. So I said, just be ready. I said, actually look the other way because that bird's gonna hit that wind and go behind us. So be ready to shoot behind us. So he spun around. I said, I'll flush the bird. And I went and walked in front and kicked around. That puppy didn't move a muscle. And I thought, what in the heck is she pointing? I thought, oh, I wonder if there's a coon in the grass. Well, then I seen Boomer coming up the hill, and then he got downwind of it, and he starts flagging a little bit, and then he honors. And I'm kicking around. That puppy's not moving. Well, pretty soon, that rooster got up behind me. So he was already trying to sneak out of there, and he just blew it to pieces. It was a great shot. And I turn on, that puppy's still on point. She didn't see that bird fly. She stayed steady through the shot because she thought she had a different bird. Same bird, didn't know anything, so I just picked her up and loved her, and we hunted. And then we went hunting one more spot, and I actually got to shoot my limit. And then
Wow.
so no, it was a great deal, and I encourage anybody that has something like this to reach out to HHF and on their website and set something up. These guys were it was just a blast hearing the stories and talking with them about the different things they've done with the military and you know, sitting with them guys. You think a bunch of guys sitting in a cabin with a fire going and having a few beers and shooting the bull. You wouldn't think that, you know, a lot of times the conversation's pretty quiet and you got one guy that does all the talk and everybody just listens. And these guys have a special bond with they're in the military. And even Mike, who's a lot older than them, that was in a totally different conflict, that I just sat back and listened because they talked about all the things that are different than how, you know, each unit did. It was a really humbling experience for me. And we actually went out Sunday. We had one guy left. The other two had to go home. They had stuff come up in their family too. And so they ended up not being able to stay the second night. So Leroy, who drove from Middle Nebraska, was still there. And I said, we cooked up a really good ribeye, and my mom made some sides. She made lunch again, like she did on our hunt, and made soup and sandwiches
yeah.
and cookies. And so we had a good time at their place, and we really didn't want to go hunting after that. It's like,
Wow. I know.
you guys are, I got you
kinda
guys for
was-
2 days. We're
Oh,
going.
man, that was
I
kind of
said, even if we were done, we're still going. So
kind of the way it was with the Ireland guys, where we went to your mom and dad's for a hot bowl of soup after being out in that cold, brutal wind. And
this was
yeah,
worse than our hunt up there.
you know, trying to say we're going to go back out there this afternoon was a little bit okay. Yeah, you had to. You're thinking, do I really want to do that? Yeah, I guess we do.
So
But-
yeah, Leroy stayed and the night, and Mike had actually gotten a hotel by where I live. So I said, everybody just meet at my house at 8. So
Very
they were
cool.
down there at 7:30, ready and raring to go. He's like, I'm here. He says, if let's go shoot my limit. If I have time, I'm gonna go walk around that marsh and try and shoot a duck too. He says, because I got duck stamped for Iowa and all that. So
Yeah.
Leroy came to hunt, and he was a hunting fool. And big shout out to my friend Chad Chase with Chase Brothers Brittany's. I text him. I said, I'm trying to figure out a couple just quick spots to take him, so because he had a 4 or 5 hour drive home. And he goes, I got a good spot I'm going to. Come on down. So I grabbed a dog, and he brought a couple of his nice dogs, and we saw quite a few birds. And I knocked one down in a grove, and dogs were hunting around. We never did find it. He found his track shoes too, and Leroy knocked a good one down, and then, you know, we had to walk all the way down. Well, then walk all the way back to the truck. You know, we didn't think anything of it, and that little puppy went on point again, out of the blue, out of nowhere. Rooster gets up. Now this story's funny, and it flies out over a hayfield, and Leroy, he's quick on the trigger, and that bird just folded up and hit the alfalfa. All the dogs pile up over there, and they all go there, and there's no bird. Like, what in the heck? And it wasn't very tall. I'm like, I go, you folded that thing and it rolled. Dogs are running around this big hayfield. Then they were running around. We couldn't find that bird. And we looked and looked and looked. We had like a search party out there. We couldn't find that bird. Well, Chad went to that spot Sunday morning, dogs went on point in the same spot, and that bird come running out with a broken wing. He'd lived that whole week.
He buried himself somewhere in there. Or what?
Well, we think he just ran around. There was an old building site. We think he ran around there and got through there because that's where
Huh.
my puppy kept going. I thought, well, there's no way that bird got up in there, but it did.
Yeah, we've
But
seen
he
that.
come back down to that same spot. No, his dogs caught it luckily, and he said he had it for supper. It didn't have infection or nothing, just a broken wing, and it had managed to live that whole week
Wow.
through that weather and
Okay.
cold and rain and sleet, and so
Well, it never fails. I mean, sometimes when you see those birds get hit, you said that bird's got to be there. I mean, and then when it's not, you're wondering what the heck. And so you never know. I mean, and then some of them that look like they're lightly hit, and you think this is going to be one we're going to have to search for. They're right on top of the grass sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's just you never know. In fact, we had a few of those that happened to us.
yeah, this last
down
week
there
I
at,
thought there's no way
yeah,
that
Highland.
dog's gonna find that bird, and they had him. So, that was like it's humbling how tough, or it's amazing how tough of a bird they are, and like you said, you had one hop up out of the grass with one leg and come right
Yeah.
to you,
Yeah.
and so it's just they're a tough bird. You got to really respect them.
Yeah,
and-
but it's really nice because we do it, and you know that most of the guys that we hunt with, most of your upland guys, take the time to try to recover that game
Yeah.
if you can. That's just part of the things we do, and sometimes you can't. You know, sometimes it's just not going to happen. But we search and try to get the dogs in there while we can. But at some point, those guys beat you, and they're gonna, like you said, burrow in, or like the bird you're talking about, go where you would not think they could make it, but they do. And so, but it's good that somebody recovered that
yeah,
bird
and,
later.
and I bet we looked for we looked for a half hour. I just wanted one to honor that bird and respect
Yeah.
it, and then to get him some more birds to take home. And I thought, man, that bird just folded up, and the puppy did it perfect and everything. You're like, man, and then
No guarantees.
you don't get that
Well, and that's
guarantee.
why we like pheasant hunting. That's
Yeah.
why they're such a challenge. And those birds, like I said, even when you shoot them hard, which we try to do. In the perfect world, especially when we're guiding, as you know, in the perfect world, the bird gets up, it presents itself a nice shot to your client or to the gunner or to yourself, and one shot, and the bird folds and drops, and it's right there where the dog easily retrieves it. It doesn't happen that way very
No.
often, and
No,
that's
and-
just that's just the nature of the beast. And so, but again, that's what makes it challenging, I think, too.
Yeah, and,
is-
and a lot of times if I'm out hunting by myself, if I, shoot a bird and drop it and never find it, I still count that bird as my limit. I know a lot of people probably don't, but that's just kind of a respect thing on me. It's like you didn't make a good enough shot to kill that bird, or you took the
Right.
wrong shot. So,
Right.
a lot of people think, oh, you're full of it, but I do that. And, it's the dogs aren't the 100% foolproof plan that they're going to find that bird. Even if you did, it is dead. It's just,
Well,
it's tough. They bury, just like duck hunting, you'll drop a bird. And when we're out in the marsh, when I used to duck hunt, and you watch that bird land, and, you might shoot a double or a triple, and the lab's out there grabbing, then you go over, help them out. And you're like, I know that bird landed right here. And they'll just last ditch effort. They'll dive and lock their wings. And I've kicked around where you see, even see feathers on the water, and pretty soon a bird will float up, or you just randomly see birds floating around in these little holes. That's what happened. And finally,
yeah.
so it's
Well,
weird
it's
how
that
tough these
instinct.
animals
Well,
are.
it's that instinct to survive, and they'll run and run until they can't run anymore, and then they'll burrow into the grass so deep that sometimes dogs can't find them, and when the dogs do, you go, "There's no way in hell that bird could be in there," and you start pulling back the layers until you find one, and that happened to me the other day last week. That bird was buried so deep that without a dog, you'd have never known it was there, but and then the other thing is, up until here recently, the last couple weeks, previous weeks, it's just been so dang dry. I mean, and the sending conditions have not been very good, and so when you do get that bird down, it hurts your percentages of trying to recover that game. And again, care how good your dog is. Sometimes that's those are, and they're moving at that speed. But I told you the story of the one that came right at me and tried. I thought it looked like a kamikaze kind of a thing coming right at me. He was coming, and he was running on one leg, you know. And a guy that was with us in the group was standing near me, and he just the dogs were on point. There had been a big flush of multiple birds, and as it happened, shots are going off and birds are dropping, and this particular rooster hadn't been killed; he was crippled, and down at the end of the row of the food plot, the dogs went on point again, and I start down that way, and about that time I see this bird come out of the food plot, and then it just comes in a beeline right at me, almost like he's going to take me on, But he's on one leg. He's run, and he was running pretty dang good on one leg, and he came up the hill, and right at me, and I thought he's going to see me in a minute, and he's going to divert into into cover, and then I've got dogs that are down the hill. How am I going to get dogs pulled off? This all going through my head. That bird continued up and went almost over the top of my boot, and my cat-like reflexes. I just reached down and I snatched that bird, just snatched him up, and chalk up one for the dogs didn't have to find. I found it, and the guy that was standing there went, "I've never seen anything like that in my life." And I said, "Well, I can't think that that's ever happened to me in my lifetime, but." I said, maybe the dog or maybe the bird just didn't want to end up in the jaws of a dog and thought, I'm going to go over there.
Let it just wring my neck.
Yeah, let that guy take care of it.
Yeah,
But,
the puppy had that there. They had my nieces out, and she got out a little ways. I thought, well, we're getting to the end. We'll just see what she does. And I saw a rooster cackle up that way earlier, and wild flush, and I seen that puppy's little tail come up, and I thought, girl, she's got a bird. She's got a really nice point going way up there, and so I was like, let's go get this on camera. So my niece had her phone out, and she was taking a video of it, and I go, look at that. And this rooster come out of the grass where you could see where a tractor had turned around on the grass, so it was flat, and that pup's on point, and that rooster comes out of the grass and just starts walking right at the pup. I thought, so I kind of hurried up and got up there. I said, get that on camera. And that bird come up, I don't know, 10, 15 feet from her, and just stopped and looked at her, and I thought, she's going to break, which, puppy that's been out 3 times, and so, yeah, he walked right up to that pup, and finally she just like, I can't handle this anymore. So they went head to head. She come in and flushed up, and I shot it luckily, and, it actually got across the creek, so I went over there and got it and brought it back, and she'd already said, whatever, I don't care. And
I'm going to find another one.
We'll go find another one. And we'd actually quit for the day. And then, I just laid her up for a week and probably laid her up for a week and a half, just to let that soak into her little brain. And I took her out Saturday and Sunday, and heck, she pointed 2 birds for me and retrieved them to hand. So, and I've never worked on retrieving for her. So it's just those little instances is just awesome that, that little puppy is just imprinting and learning and
she's fast.
Yeah, we hunted her all day the other day, and she's
got some wheels on her,
just
I'll say that.
25, 30 pound, just a little short-legged thing, and we hunted her our whole half day, and we killed 24 birds
that was
down.
an interesting day. It started that I was guiding a group, and you were going to go to another field. That's kind of how
With
it
another
started.
group,
yeah.
yeah.
And the next thing I know, my phone's ringing, and you're saying, "Hey, my group didn't come, or there was a miscommunication," and you joined me, and which was kind of nice because I had another gig to do the next day. Maybe I had 2 more days to go, and I thought, well, man, this will help me with my dog, because Major had a sore foot, so I hadn't been hunting him, and so Duchess had kind of been carrying the load, and I was subbing in Darby some, and Adeline was good for, an hour and a half, and then, she's 11 years old, so she's kind of tanks after that. But so it was kind of nice because I was able to kind of save Duchess for the next day. But yeah, we got in some, it was kind of what I'd call a typical hunt that we do down there. I mean, the action was pretty steady. But,
Yeah. The birds, I mean, it was warm,
Yeah, it was.
unseasonally warm for, I mean,
it's been-
lately it hasn't, but
It's been
it's
crazy.
been cold. and-
Crazy weather, up and down. I mean, and I got pictures earlier um, that I took is when we had that snowstorm. We're hunting in the damn snow, like you mentioned the other
Yeah.
day, and then then we're hunting. It's 65 degrees.
Yeah, on the
Like,
way home, my
man.
thing said 65 degrees. I was like, and I thought, and
So
the dog struggled because of the dry and then the
Yeah.
wind.
yeah,
And when I got home, I did one of these with my sweatshirt and the dust just flew. So I was like, okay, we need some rain or some wet snow to really
so
enhance.
the day went kind of probably according to how they normally do. There was some bird action, and the guys were decent shots, and we hunted. Kind of it's a two-part field, two sides on the opposite sides of a creek that runs east and west, and so we hunted the south side first. There were some birds in there. We had some action, and I don't remember how many birds we killed, but so we went over to the north side to finish over there, and again the birds were there. We were seeing birds pretty steadily,
Mhm.
And we had your three dogs were down, and I had. Can't remember if I started. I think I started with Duchess. I think I had her down first, and then them dogs were, man, they're covering all kinds of ground and they're shooting going on, and it was pretty interesting. And then we made a couple passes on this big field. I took Duchess to the truck because I figured, like I said, I was trying to save her for the next day. I got Darby back out, and you still had your three on the ground. And then everything were again steady, a bird now and then, maybe a couple misses in there. And we get down in the far corner, and anybody that's hunted down in Highland on that field is familiar with what we call the buffer.
Hmm.
And I remember telling you, okay, we're going to cross this creek, and it can be fairly deep. However, I think between last year and this year, I don't know if the water came through there right, but there's fairly easy place to cross there. I was kind of happy about
Mhm.
that, because you used to have to walk across a pipe that was sticking out of the ground and do the old trapeze thing, tightrope thing across that to get on the other side. But it wasn't so bad, and we got in there, and there's that food plot at the very bottom, and I thought there's got to be a couple roosters in there. We were getting kind of towards the middle, we probably had an hour and a half maybe to go, I think, of the hunt. And it was a corporate deal, so those things go to the last out, last
Yeah.
minute, because they basically can kill how many birds they want to
Unlimited,
kill.
yep.
Yeah, so those deals are gonna go down to the clock. And so anyway, we started in that food plot, and the dogs didn't even get a chance to get a point for the most part, and the roosters started boiling out of there. And I think that first rise had probably 8 birds in it.
Yeah, and I
You
remember
remember?
we were trying to get, we were like, guys, we got to roll. These birds are running.
Yeah.
And Boomer was like, I knew Boomer's on one, and he was up there like 45, 50 yards. I said, Boomer's on point. To the guy next to me, I said, he was on the outside. I said, you need to curl around
Yeah.
with me. Let's get going. And then a bird had actually run out in front of me, and I think the puppy saw it or smelled it, and she was right behind it. Well, it ran into this
Abyss.
abyss where
What we call that,
your
a food
story's
plot
going.
abyss. Yeah. So anyway, as you noted before, we could kind of get the group organized to get up there. These birds were really acting like wild birds. I mean, they were just spooky as heck, and they were starting to boil out of there. And after the first 2 roosters got up, then everything started. They all started kind of falling, and that's typical what you see wild birds do.
Yeah.
You get a rise of a first bird or two, and then suddenly the whole group decides it's time to get the heck out of here. Fortunately for us, several of the roosters decided to come back over us,
Yeah.
and were right in the position of some of our gunners that were coming up
Yeah.
over the hill. And I just heard all kinds of shooting going off, and bird down. Here we got a dead bird, and here, and the dogs were so. And then about the time I'm thinking, oh gosh, that was pretty neat, and that was worth walking over here for. The next wave would come up, and I didn't think, I'm thinking it's got to stop. I mean, I've never seen that many birds
Yeah.
down there, and at any one spot. And the nearest I can tell is it was kind of at a juncture of several of the fields that are hunted, and it just must have been a collection point where those birds had collected up for, 2, 3, 4 days. 'Cause
Yeah.
there was a bunch in there. I would guess what 40, 45
Yeah, I'd
birds came
say
out of
40,
there?
45
I
birds.
had never seen anything like. They just kept coming up.
Yeah, and you can shoot both hens and roosters down there, but when you get that many birds get up, you don't. Which one are you
I
gonna
would say the
pick?
majority of them were roosters, though. Came out
Yeah,
of
they
there.
were.
There was a few hens, but my goodness, and bang bang and bird down, and I'm trying to find marked birds, and so we can get them.
Dogs were every which
Oh, the
way.
dogs didn't know what to do. They're just about the time they're on a bird, another one's coming down. I mean, it was crazy, and so. But we ended up getting out of that field and getting back to the truck, and I think we had 20, almost 25 birds. I think.
Yeah,
time
we
got done.
we come up. Well, luckily they all most of them flew and landed where we were gonna walk.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
then
Yeah,
the dogs
yeah.
could actually calm down and sit there and pinpoint, and we got quite a few birds
Yeah,
off a point.
probably what we should have done is gone a little higher on the hill and back through that food plot again, because I bet that's probably where a lot of those birds ended up. We did hunt that edge, which was that taller cover, and there was a few in there, but I would, too many went that direction that we didn't see after we made
Yeah,
that
and
push,
they were
so.
flying across the road and every which way, and
But by then it's getting sun's starting to come down, and we'd both done about 10 miles, it seemed
yeah,
like.
I was dipping into the dog water at that point. I was a little
It's
parched,
like,
and
man, hopefully these guys have had enough by the time we get to the parking lot and they don't want to go another round. But
yeah, the guy that was paying for the whole thing, he wasn't shooting a lot, and I said, "You need to start shooting." He goes, it's all right. I said, "No, shoot away." So there was like 4 or 5 birds, and you guys, we kind of stopped in the bottom. You guys curled around the top, and he
Yeah.
shot a couple of the guys had shot, and
yeah, but
the puppy had gone on point, and a couple birds got up, and I think he dropped one, and then you guys had a couple get up, and they flew at us, and they're sky
Yeah.
high in the wind.
in fact,
And I said, just shoot him. I got extra shells, and by God, that guy was a heck of a
think-
shot, because he dropped 2 of them at.
he did shoot a couple way
He
out
was
there.
really way up there, and
I'm guessing he was a duck hunter in a previous life.
I think
probably.
he does duck hunt a little bit.
That's the
where-
guys you see that make shots like that. They're
Yeah,
usually
and it was just
waterfowl guys.
it was amazing shots.
But the last bird we got up as we came up over the edge was your dog was in front of us, your pup, and it's tall cover clear over your head, and she was in there, and she was obviously birdieing, and she went on point, and I told the guy that was with me, and I said, she's got a point here, and we went up there, and then I think you were coming up close by, and I don't know, I think she heard you, and I don't know.
Yeah, puppy brain.
But she kind of like gave up on it, like, oh, I'm pretty sure there's something in this area, but I'm gonna, and so she kind of went up the hill towards you, and about that time, I said, well, kick around in there, because she looked like she was pretty sure there was a bird there, and I'm not sure, why she gave up on it, other than, you and I walk up on her,
Yeah.
and she's wanting to go back over that way. And by gosh, there was a hen buried in there. She was on it. I mean, it was still out of probably 4 or 5 feet from where
Yeah.
she was, but it was there.
Yeah,
so.
and that's this puppy. A lot of people like, oh, puppy won't stay. Well, that's just confidence.
Yeah.
And-
Oh yeah.
And she'd been over probably should have left her at home, really, if I thought, but I thought,
Well-
what a way to just let her run and learn. And
Yeah, I thought.
I thought she got better throughout the
I
day.
think
and,
she did. I really
and
do.
that's just a confidence thing. And
think she
with these
did.
birds running all the time, it's like when I see her getting birdie, I'm running up to catch her. And the 2 that she did point on this Sunday that I got, and then she picked up and retrieved, she hardly even got set. She'd show birdie, so I'd hustle up and get right on her and stay with her. And then when she did stop, I gave her a ho, and those birds weren't even sitting long enough for her to get completely set. But that I could tell she was thinking on the second bird. It did hold long enough for me to get up there. I didn't get to kick it up and flush it, but
Yeah, I think
she
I think
just
she's-
needs to.
Yeah, I think that every experience out, she's learning and she's
Yeah.
improving, And I think she did that particular day, that afternoon, from what I saw, is she kind of started being a little bit tentative.
Yeah.
I think there's a bird here. I'm smelling something. It's probably what I'm looking for, but I'm not quite sure. And that kind of went to, she was standing, I mean,
Yeah.
in fact, I think down in the corner, you had all of them standing down there. at
Yeah.
one
We
point
had,
down there.
I got a picture. We had 4 dogs. So, Boomer's the type of dog that if you're not finding anything over here, he's going to go away and he's going to go find his own thing. And he's sneaky like that. And I let him do it just because I know when he peels off and gets away from everybody, he's going to come up with a bird.
Yeah.
And it was down in the woods and my Garmin beeped and he's on point. So I told the guy, I said, I'm going to go down, make a loop around him, push that bird out of the woods. Well, then all the dogs saw me going down there and CJ come in, boom. Puppy come in, boom. So we had a triple on her. Well, then Darby come down the hill and boom. And I'm like, wow. And I said, I can see the bird, guides. I can see it. Well, it was a bird that had died down in there and the dogs just, I mean, it was that day. It was pretty fresh yet. And I thought it was still cool to have all 4 dogs on point and that at Highland, I've seen that a million times. The dogs go on point and
That's neat.
you find a bird that it was shot the night before, the morning before, or something, and it's a scent. There was no wind down there, so it was a pretty cool sight to see. And you got 4. I'm sure if we would have had 5 dogs on the ground, we would have had
That's
5 of them
yeah,
backing
that's
each
a-
other up.
That's
So
that's a neat sight. It really
And-
is, seeing multiple dogs all on honoring the other dogs, and yeah, he just
and it's funny
That's
they
it.
some guys teach that. That puppy, she sees another dog on point,
Yeah.
and CJ's the same way. I mean, they're like, oh, that dog stopped on
Well,
point. I'm gonna honor it.
Adeline probably is the best honoring dog I ever saw. But now, granted, she hunted as a brace with Blue her whole career, so
Mhm.
she obviously she
Second
got a lot of
fiddle a little
practice.
bit, yeah.
She got a lot of practice honoring another dog's point. However, it looks like her offspring were all natural
Yeah.
packing dogs, and so and so that's kind of nice to see that. I will say Duchess occasionally, as her father did, will honor, but if that bird moves and the dogs, are released to relocate, then she will she will make sure that she's kind of first in line
Yeah.
if she can. And I always thought, yeah, that reminds me of your old man, because he used to do that with Adeline. When Adeline would have the bird, he would be a little bit like, man, I got to honor her, but the first chance I get, I'm going to try to sneak up there and get the bird. But
Yeah,
but
CJ,
anyway,
when CJ goes on point, and if a bird's running or something, she'll wait till you come in and flush, and then she'll finally move on. Well, I don't know if that's just a confidence thing or if that's just her instinct. Like, okay, there's a bird here. I smell a bird. I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna bump it.
Yeah.
Well, now Boomer's learned that, he comes in and gets a whiff and he'll honor, and then he'll actually bump her a little bit and like, hey, this bird's running.
yeah.
And she's getting better at it.
Yeah.
And she's, just 3 years old,
Right.
seems like she's been around forever, but I had her out just like I did Sis and this little one I got now. But, now I think, when you get a dog to where Sis is at, now I got to single her out,
Yeah, hunted by herself.
I hunted her with
Yeah.
my young male who's just a few months older than her and less experience on him, but they don't hunt together. They'll honor each other. She actually picked the bird up and he kind of come in like, hey, I want to chew on that, and she just spun around and brought it right to me. So with so many dogs and all the hunting we've done so far, counting my guiding, I bet my dogs have had over 120 birds shot down them already this year.
Yeah,
And it's not ones I'm shooting. So
yeah, it makes a big difference.
deer season starts this week. We got 3 weeks of that. So I'm going to kind of lay them up and dogs
Well,
are
and that's
tired.
what's good about the preserve. I mean, you can be down there and be pretty safe as far as not having to worry about
Yeah.
getting in the way of some deer stuff that's going on, and especially if you're hunting public. A lot of the private ground obviously is spoken for during
Mhm.
this time of year, so, and that's understandable. But so it's kind of it's kind of a good time to have those guided hunts where you can go
Yeah.
down there and still get your dog on birds, but not have to worry about uh, slugs whizzing over your
Yeah,
head. I've
and
had that happen a few
I
times.
yeah, that distinct when the slug
Not
goes
a good feeling.
flying through the air will make hair on the back of your neck that's not
Yes, it
even there
will.
stand up. But no, I actually got a mentor hunt on Sunday at a preserve and with outdoor mentors. So
Good. Good.
taking the Wartburg college trap team out. We got a couple gals on the team that have never been pheasant hunting, so
Tremendous.
we're gonna single them out with just with my pointing dogs and try and get them a few birds. And so that I'm lucky, we're both lucky to, work at Highland, and Ryan's got a beautiful, fantastic facility down there. He's got everything we need when we go, and it's nice to go down. Nice to have a place where you can still run dogs even when you can't do it at home, and especially off season. But
There's a lot of setter guys down there now.
yeah, we're slowly taking we're slowly taking over. I think we had more setters down there Saturday, Friday than we did any other dogs.
I don't want to say that.
Steve, brings a pretty good brood of the GSPs.
Well,
when
Scott
he
does
young.
too.
And
Scott, I think he's running 7. I think
yeah,
he had down there the other day. It's like, oh my gosh, but
yeah,
it's kind of nice from from where I came years ago. I was kind of the odd guy out with Lou and Adeline, but we had fun, and it was always kind of a good-hearted competitiveness to see how many birds we could find in some of those corporate deals. But
yeah. And
but
you and
yeah,
I don't get a lot of chances to hunt together just because I'm an hour and a half away from here and from you, and I'm
well,
just under 2 hours
yeah.
from Highland. So it's nice to it. It kind of sucked going all the way down there, and then the client had the wrong date in his calendar, but it was good, like it was
Yeah,
good to
yeah.
just be able to say, hey, I'll just go with Wade. Yeah, you just go with Wade, and so you and I got to
Well,
hunt
most of the
together,
days I need it. I need all the help I can get. So
and I never thought to take pictures. Luckily, you took some pictures,
yeah.
but I'm running back. I'm always running around. I never stand behind one person all at the same time, and I probably put on twice the mileage, but it doesn't. I think that doesn't hurt me at all either. So
You do a good job. So hopefully you can get down there some more. And but you're kind of built for those corporate deals, those all day long,
I don't know.
full day deals. See, I'm past that.
I brought a couple of the dogs into the house that night, and I was just like, oh, I'm wore out, and they were snoring, but Saturday morning I got up and grabbed Gunner, my new dog, and that pup, and we went, and we got skunked. I missed 2 really easy birds, and I don't know how I did it. I just did, and hit the reset button on Sunday, and went out and we got a couple, and I had the puppy go on point in this spot on my family farm, and it's a piece of grass out in the middle between was waterways. It V's off, and then you got to walk across one field, and there's nothing there. It's just a field, no fence line or nothing. But there's one tuft of grass in the corner, and there's always like tons of sparrows in it. So she went. It's kind of on a hill, so she went over the hill and was on point, and my Garmin went off and said she was pointing. I couldn't see her, but it said she was pointing, and I saw a gun. The wind was blowing 100 mile an hour, of course. And he went around and he never stopped, and he come back, and then he kind of went around that corner again, and then he went towards the cover, and I thought, oh, she's chasing sparrows and just being a puppy. And so I walked over the hill and walked away from it, like, okay, don't mess with them. And she was standing there, and I saw her tail wagging. I thought, oh yeah, she's probably messing with sparrows. And so I kept walking. Here she come, and turned around and looked back I don't know why I did, and a rooster busts out of that grass. And I would have had my limit, and I just put my hand over my face and went, trust the puppy.
You got to be smarter.
You got to trust them, and went into another point, and not too far from there, and I immediately smelled skunk. So I hoot and hollered and run the other way. Well, there was a hen there, but there was a skunk not far behind it. So I dodged a bullet there.
Wow.
So
You, one of the things that, as as the episodes and future episodes we'll talk about, but as you know, and part of it was your prodding and not prodding, but your encouragement. Let's just say your encouragement. Um, I was in need of a new collar system. Mine's pretty antiquated, and I'd toyed with the idea of just kind of repeating what I had before. But you know, a lot of the guys are using GPS, including you, and I could see the advantages of it, especially when you're hunting unknown kind of areas, which
mhm.
we have talked about doing maybe in the future. And just that insurance policy of knowing where your dog is, especially a young dog. You've got one of those, and you know, Travis has one that I've been taking down and running in the big fields. And so far, you know, she's been really good about recall and staying pretty close. But it would be nice to have that extra kind of insurance. And then just exploring the uh, different features and the things that it's like any technology. There's so many things it can do. It's you just scratch the surface sometimes. But for me, it's going to be this. Um, I think I'm going to write about it. Even I think I'll just talk about the journey that I'm about to take into the into the techno world, and you know, can an old guy, you know, learn it? And I've been actually watching some videos and kind of gearing up for it. But the actual, I think tomorrow when it's supposed to come in tomorrow. So tomorrow the unit will be in my hand, and so I'll be able to touch it and feel it and play with it, and you know, and get turn knobs on and kind of see what it's going to do, and start with the three collars that it goes with. And as you know, it's a pretty it's a it's not a cheap investment. I mean,
No.
it's fairly expensive to do. However, I think you know, if it comes down to the safety of the dog and the other things, it's just you can't put a price on that. So, what we'll be doing and talking about is this Garmin unit, and that's the 200i,
Yeah,
right? And
I have the
and
eye.
that's what I'm getting to. And so we'll be able to talk about some of that in the future. I think we'll probably have some guests on that have a little bit of knowledge about that, and maybe anybody else out there that's kind of making going to this unit or to a unit like it. Will learn a little more about GPS and what it can do. You know, GPS has actually been out there for a while in the dog world, but it continues to get better and better and refined
Yep.
better, and the usage of the transmitter. Because as you know, when you're in the field with that dog, you really need that immediate, if you can, correction if you need to make it and or locate. And you know, a lot of the earlier units, you really had to take a lot of time to look at a screen and try to see it
Mhm.
in the sunlight and do a lot of, you know, fiddling around with it. And so I think they've tried to correct a lot of things with this unit. And so how long have you been using this one?
I've had this one since this summer. Like if I'm doing yard work, you know, like obedience or doing like collar conditioning, I have this a regular little Garmin
Right,
unit
right.
handheld with just it's the TT, it's the T15 collar, which isn't GPS capable, but it's the same collars as what you'll be running. It's a mini type collar, and so when I'm doing recall, like especially with the pups, we're swearing that. You know, when I started um hunting, we just had the old Inatech, you know, you had to use a magnet to turn it on.
Yeah.
And you know, when I was a kid, dad had coonhounds, and, you know, when it was time to go home, you know, way when, it was 35 years ago, you know, well, she's not coming back.
So fryer or what?
You couldn't, there was nothing you could do.
Oh,
You didn't have a
yeah.
collar or nothing. And
Yeah, that's true.
so
Yeah.
you lay a coat down
Yeah.
and the dog come back. And then, as it advanced, they had, I can't remember what it was, but Garmin had just the collar and um, the unit, and then you had a big collar, and it was like that big. Had an antenna that was about that far, and it was stiff. And I think they only had that. I think that was just the Garmin Astro they called it. And their dogs were going under fences
Knocking it off and
and breaking it off. So Garmin went to just a regular collar and that was good, but they had no correction. Well, then they came out with the 320, which is the handheld, and it just had a bigger screen, and then they had like a newer version of their collar. Well, then they finally go, well, what if I want to correct my dog? Now, our coon dogs are all wearing 2 collars, and my bird dogs are wearing 2 collars. It's like, well, 3, because they had their identification collar on too. So Garmin did the alpha, which you could do corrections, and then and I just stayed updating with them as they went, just in case. The collars are all the same. They haven't changed this TT15 collar
It
for
syncs with that, right?
what's that?
The old collars will still work with
Yeah,
the new
so
transmitter.
the TT15 collar, you can actually use. They have a collar, just a GPS without correction, for guys that want to do like dog trials and stuff. But this is the TT15 Mini, which is a smaller collar. And I think the only difference in these collars is battery life. But a lot of the hound guys that run coyotes and mountain lions obviously use the bigger, or the coon hounds, or they use the bigger one because it's got more battery life. But I've never had one of these go dead on me. But the minis are a lot more comfortable, especially for my little puppy. She, instead of
Right.
having a big collar under her neck. So Garmin just come out with their new, I think it's the TT15X, which is just like I think it's a longer battery life. And then they still got the mini. I think they're going to come out with a TT15 Mini X, which is going to be more battery. I haven't read into them a lot. But from when my buddies with the coonhounds, when I was a kid, you had the wildlife system where you had to put a magnet and connect the magnet. And then you had this big backpack you wore, and then you had to fold it out and all this. And you walked around and watched a dial, and it would tick. And then you watch that dial, and once the tick got louder, so you had this big, practically a TV antenna, and then it went to the smaller one, but it still had just a line that beeped, and then to this. It's just the way the technology, you either
Yeah.
keep up with it or it's
That's
going to
true.
leave you in the dust. And I
So
went
anyway.
with the eye because it has the inReach capability. So if I go on a trip or we go somewhere, I hunt primarily by myself unless I'm guiding. I haven't activated the inReach because I haven't gone anywhere, but it's got a SOS button where I can actually hit that SOS,
Right.
and
So it knows where you're at.
or I can, if we're in a place there's no cell phone reception, and your buddy's out there with you, you can actually text message him and share your location and everything. So that was something why I picked the eye. You can get a 200 too. I think the price difference is like $75 if I remember right. And but I went with this, and then the Garmin, their customer service is just outstanding. You can call in and they'll explain if you have a problem and usually fix it, or they'll just send you a new unit. Usually, if it's under warranty, you'll have it within a day. You send it back, and my watch went bad. The battery, something happened to it, and I called Garmin, and it was out of warranty.
We
And
don't even want to get into the watch yet.
and it was out of warranty, and the guy goes, you know what? I'll just extend your warranty. He says, you send me the money for the price of a new watch,
See that?
and I'll send you a new one. So within a day, I had a new watch on the doorstep, sent my old watch back, and then they credited my money back. So that's one of the other reasons I've stuck with Garmin, who bought Tritronics. So this unit is user friendly now. They got triggers on the side so you can select dogs, you can select maps.
Well, I've already bought it, so you really don't have to sell it to me.
I know. I'm just selling it to our listeners. If you're on the
And that's
fence
right,
of one of
yeah,
these, it's
And obviously, I'm joking about that, but
super user friendly.
we'll see, because I'm not intimidated by it, but I know I got a lot to learn, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be an interesting trip to kind of learn the ins and outs of this. And I've got a lot of people around me. There's a lot of other guys that are using them as well. None of them are my age, however, that I'm aware of. But so I might be cutting new edge here, but a guy my age kind of jumping into this technology.
Well, as
We'll
much
see that.
videos and research as if you've been doing on that,
Well,
I'm probably going to be calling you for questions. Not even joking.
Anyway, we'll see how it goes. We'll, as all summer long, this guy every time we do an episode would ask me how I was doing on my house painting project, where I was on that, how close I was to completion, and it really motivated me to say, by the time we do the next episode, I'm going to have that project done, and I'm afraid this will probably be something similar. He's going to update me and try to ask me how we're doing on the transition over to this, and that's good. So we'll be talking about how it's going and how the dogs are kind of responding to it, and as we go through the next month or so, and we'll encourage some other people to jump into this world.
And this spring we're gonna do a live podcast at Highland. We're gonna do a hunt.
That's right, we are.
And we had to change the dates. So that's one thing, it's a ways away, but it's very exciting for us that we're gonna
Maybe I'll have this figured out by then.
hopefully we're going to make sure we're gonna actually have Wade turn his unit on
On camera?
and show us how to run it. I think that's a good idea.
There you
but-
go. And now the pressure's on. The pressure's on.
No, but
Well-
it's we haven't been back for a while, but just kind of give you an update what we've been doing. We've just been hunting and enjoying the dogs and thank God for the kinetic dog food, because as hard as we've been hunting, they're all staying healthy and in shape,
So far,
and
mine are keeping the weight on.
they're
and-
keeping the weight on, and that's a big thing. So
and I'm keeping the weight on too,
big-
but that's whole nother
a
story.
big thanks to Kinetic for pushing that great product.
Yeah. And we, we're just trying, like I said, tonight we wanted to just kind of get back in the swing of it, and, let our listeners and viewers know that we're, still in the podcast game. We just had a little bit of a hiatus there, and we're going to get back into it. We've got some good guests in line coming up that are going to be, I think, pretty dynamite, and it'll be very interesting. Some interesting topic stuff. We're going to have Ian Donovan. He's coming back again for episode 4. He's going to be talking about some dog training techniques. If you missed the one he did on collar conditioning, it was really a great episode, so you need to check that out. And we're going to close out tonight just by saying again to everyone, we appreciate your support. We appreciate everybody that is tuning in every week to watch the podcast. Pass the word. Tell your friends, check it out. We do that when we have hunters that we're guiding. They find out that we're doing a podcast,
And if you like the show, be sure to leave a review because
There
that
you go.
actually bumps it up in the metrics and things like that.
yes. So, it's kind of a numbers game for us right now. We're new and we're trying to get out there in front of everybody, and so far we're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
But it always takes a little more. If there are subjects that you want to hear about, drop us a line on our Facebook podcast, Setter Tales Podcast Facebook page. And if
send
you
us
have
a message.
questions, you have some training questions, that type of thing, just leave a message for us, and we'll try to talk about it during the next episode, or respond to you in a private message or whatever to hopefully help you out and answer your question, because that's what it's all about. Is that we've got lots of guys with lots of experience. And who knows, you may be the person that can help me out with that Garmin transmitter. So
Did I see that we had views in how many different countries?
Will, how many countries?
I have to pull it back up.
I think we had
but,
some in China.
I
correct?
had some in Asia. I think actually we've had views in every major continent at this point. Some more than
There you
others,
go.
of course.
So
but
thanks for keep spreading the word for us. And
Yeah. Let's,
And,
keep,
we're gonna-
keep it going. But if you're interested in subscribing to the show, there's ways to do that. We're out there on multiple platforms on the audio side, as well as this version where you can actually see our lovely faces and see us actually on the screen. But yeah, it's all about trying to continue to educate and bring a next generation of upland hunters into this world, so that we have it's a wonderful sport, it's something that Thomas and I really have a passion for and love, and we want to make sure that it stays and that the future is good for it. Long after we're not chasing dogs, somebody else is, and so that's what it's all about. And so until next time,
Keep their nose in the wind.
there you go.